Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishvaro Guratmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomabda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sarva Vedanta Sedanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanantam Satiguru Pranatoshmaham Om Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. Good day everyone. Welcome to our Q&A Satsang. We are covering questions today about the second chapter of our book, which is about the scriptures. So this chapter it's not really relevant to our self-knowledge, but we could see if there is anything we could say about this description of different scriptures. And if we have no questions about, we could move into any other questions related to Vedanta. So has everybody done our homework? We read it? Okay, let me see what's going on here. If we don't have, the problem is my audio is not working. So this is a disaster. Because if we don't have David to ask questions, so we're going to have to meditate. We're going to Samadhi Yoga here.
I have a suggestion. Perhaps, Karen, do you know David's phone number, you could call him, put your phone on, and he could hear through the phone. Is that possible?
Yes, I could do that.
Yeah, try. He said that he's going to reset his
Okay.
computer to see.
I'll go find my phone.
Yeah.
Oops.
He came back. Let's see here. Karen. David just came back. Let's see.
Yeah, now I have audio, so that works.
Oh, okay.
Go
We were
figure.
we were deeply concerned because if we lose you, we would have to go into meditation. You know, nobody.
Oh no, not that.
You have developed these states for silence. We can record the entire session in deep silence, and then we post it, and then you can enjoy silence. So you don't enjoy silence anymore as a means of self-knowledge. Okay, just speaking on you. There is another Claudio here, Claudio Monteiro. Hey, Claudio, can you introduce yourself, please?
Oi, estão me ouvindo aí? Tudo bem?
Estou ouvindo aí. Você entende inglês?
Não, dá para entender bastante, sim.
Ok.
Já morei nos Estados Unidos há um tempo, mas dá para entender bem.
Então tá, ok. Nós já nos falamos anteriormente?
Recentemente eu tive contato lá, estava acompanhando um curso teu pela internet aí, né? Que está gravado. E apareceu esse link aí, eu falei, deixa eu dar uma olhada lá, ver o que está acontecendo.
Então, seja bem-vindo. Essa é uma sessão chamada Satsang, na qual a gente esclarece dúvidas e questões, tá? Todas referentes ao Vedanta. Nós não estamos fazendo uma exposição do texto, mas sim resolvendo questions, perguntas, ok? Okay, so Claudio, he understands English, but he does not speak it very well, so he is participating for the first time to see how well he may pick up on what's being said here. So do we have any questions for those of us who did the reading of the second chapter. Yes, Lynn?
So we have not looked at any of the Vedas. And when I was a TM teacher, we used to read Rig and Samaveda after our meditation, English translations, but from my recollection, it always seemed it was from the Karma Kanda. And I was wondering if you knew of any English translations of the Yanakanda, just so I could peek at them. You know, I imagine that the Upanishads are sufficient for self-knowledge, but I just have sort of a little interest in looking at them, at least, to see how they present themselves, because what I read before, it was so pithy, I mean, so thin aphorisms, you know, you really couldn't tell what was going on. But do you know of any?
Well, Vedanta is, as we know, is the end of the Vedas, okay? When we come to Vedanta, we have the scriptures on karma, dharma, and then moksha. So we go through Bhagavad Gita, or any text that somehow unfolds in the teachings of karma yoga. So once we come to Vedanta, we have at our disposal karma yoga, which includes dharma yoga, because karma does not stand without dharma. You understand? Karma is to follow a dharmic lifestyle, to conform to these dharmic laws and rules, including the karmic, ethic, psychological rules and laws. So we assume that we don't need anymore to go through the karma kanda section or stage of the Vedas, okay? But it does not stop anybody to go there and see what do they say, how to live your life, and which rituals, how to invoke Ishvara in your life, and so on. My take is that Karma Yoga does cover it pretty well, you understand? And one thing on the same lines of what you're saying, I had interest. I want to say that when I was the last time I think I was in Tiruvannamalai, I was like, okay, I have been studying Karma Yoga, and I understood Karma Yoga, and but I mean I would like to read more about Dharma. And Ramji was bringing up this notion of Dharma Yoga. What's Dharma Yoga? So I went to a store and I asked him, so I want a book on Dharma. And he presented me two books. One was almost like 10 kilos. It was thick like that. And it was all about how to behave, how to conduct oneself in society, you know, with all kinds of rules and a lot of pictures and so on. So I spoke to Ramji about that. And Ramji mentioned that Dharma is something very simple, you know, and it's common sense, what is really feels right, you know, from the standpoint of human behavior and attitudes and so on. And he says that in the all these scriptures on Dharma, they go to huge extremes of telling people, oh, how to do this, how to do that, don't do this, don't eat that, you know, go to bed at this time. So my take is that all those instructions on Dharma that can be extended on many volumes of instructions, you know, are no longer necessary once we come to this stage of Vedanta. Not to say that most of those instructions on how to live one's life is within the context of the Hindu or Vedic culture, you know. So we live in the West. So the very principles about Dharma, they are summarized, you know, by what we know as our personal, individual Swadharma, and then the universal Dharmas, and the circumstantial dharmas, you know, and it's simple. We can understand it, you know, concisely. But to live a dharmic life is a big challenge, and we know that. because our vasanas are going to be putting certain pressure on us. And again, in every response, we need to look at our motives to say or do something, to see if I'm doing something out of self-interest, if I'm taking consideration the overall situation and the field and the other people involved, if it's something that's going to be good for not only for myself, but mostly to others, to the field first and then to myself. If this motivation, desire, if it is really a sattvic dharmic one, So there are so many things involved. And if I'm not violating my nature, my swadharma, if I'm not violating my role in society, in that kind of play, there are many aspects involved in every action we do. And the ability, our success in responding dharmically and from a sattvic standpoint is going to determine our punya, our life, our prarabdha karma as punya prarabdha karma with favorable results and circumstances, because I have learned how to live a life and respond to the stimulus coming from the field in a very dharmic, sattvic, dharmic. I have neutralized all my tendencies, my vasanas, my desires, which are ego-centered. So, and I'm doing that, which is most important, good for Ishvara as the field. So there are many aspects that we need to learn, and we learn it by doing and making mistakes as well. Understand? So this is why I end up not buying neither one of those two books on Dharma. I had the opportunity to open a little bit, and I saw, okay, it's within the Hindu society context, and it is too much detailed on how to do. But as we know, the Vedas present the Karma Kanda is the session dedicated to action, and as we know, action has one and one only value, spiritual value, which is to produce improvement of the body-mind construct. So, and we don't look down on this process of betterment of the subtle body or the jiva atma, because we understand that this refinement and purification of the jiva atma is fundamental. It's absolutely important for this self-recognition, this self-knowledge to be gained and retained. So we know that this process, but we don't go to the extreme of doing a lot of actions to gain that kind of refinement of mind or purification of mind. We gain this purification of mind by being a good karma yogi, someone who understood the laws that somehow structure this order, this intelligent order, and we know how to navigate in this, respecting those laws, and among those, the karmic, dharmic laws. So knowing that, we already going through a process of purification that it's even further accelerated by self-inquiry, by Jnana Yoga. The Jnana Yoga is the greatest purifier of the Jivatmas, the intellect. So we have everything at our disposal, to my take, to my understanding, as Vedantins, to move on, to move over, not being concerned about the karma kanda that says, do this to get that, do that to get, and people can live a happy life pleasing Ishvara and doing actions that are going to produce certain results. And as we know, the best result is to gain a better mind, a more purified and refined mind. So the Karma Yoga is the one who begins doing actions no longer to gain physical, material, mundane results. The Karma Yoga, it's a shift. He's still doing actions, but he does not do actions to gain things. He do actions to get a spiritual elevation, spiritual purification. This is the difference between the Karma Yogi and the people, and the Vedic people who do things to get some material benefits or circumstantial benefit. The benefit the Karma Yogi wants is it's mental purification, mental elevation, you know, and so I don't know anything more I could tell. I don't know where to get this books or texts, but I'm sure that if you dig around in the internet, you will find some. And but they're all coming from the yoga, né? From the yoga angle. And I mean, we now know that we cannot do anything that's going to produce our freedom because we are already free. We are not going to do anything that is going to produce our existence because we are already existence itself. And we are not going to do anything to produce consciousness because we are consciousness. So there's nothing we can do because we are already Satchitananda. So we just need to accept it. To accept it, we need to understand all those notions that somehow are preventing us from accepting and appreciating and enjoying the fact that our nature is Satchitananda. So this is our case, Lynn, when we come to Vedanta, you know.
Yeah, I think it's just an intellectual curiosity, and I seem to have that. It's sort of it's not necessary. It's not a thread, you know, upon which all the beads are strung. And I can spend too much time traveling in those environs and not really doing the manana and the essential. So it's a good pointing. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, it does not stop us from doing some actions that calm the mind, you know. I mean, I remember a friend of mine from Carbondale that used to say, but I like to do my kirtans. So why not do your kirtans and have more peace of mind, and then bring the mind to the scriptures as a good Vedantine, you know. Yes, David.
Well, continuing along this line, if we're looking at the scriptures in Vedanta, the big picture, and just in the first paragraph, I mean, it seemed contrary to some of what we've talked about. First, they talked about Sanatana Dharma, and that's a new term for me. And then it says the intent of the scripture is to help us achieve freedom and happiness. And yet, like you just said, it's not about achievement. It's about living it, you know, because we're already there. So I'm just wondering how to reconcile this initial paragraph.
Well, the intent of the scriptures is to help us to achieve freedom and happiness. So we know that these scriptures, you know, on Priyas and Shriyas, the scriptures on Dharma, this body of literature that aims to help a person to fulfill fulfillment of both types of goals, you know. So we want lasting benefit and we want immediate world benefit, you know, and the lasting benefit we gain from developing a better, refined, purified mind, and world benefits we do actions to gain our goals, you know, our results. So these scripts are going to help us to do that, but they don't bring us to freedom from moksha or self-knowledge directly. They do it indirectly. They do it by preparing the mind so that Yana Yoga is going to finish up the job, let's say. So this, even Karma Yoga, you understand? It's a yoga to prepare the mind. So these are the texts. Now, when we say about lasting benefits, it englobes a little bit of Karma Yoga. Okay, so but especially the karma kanda, the ones that you do like rituals to gain world benefit, punya karma, you know, good circumstances in the world. All of these they are indirect means of self-knowledge. They are not direct. So we often say that Yana Yoga without karma kanda and karma yoga, let's say it's almost impossible. So we need to become a good person. We need to become a dharmic person, a fair person. You understand? a person who lives with enough sensitivity and empathy to the suffering of others beings, So all of that is part of the preparation we go through until we come to Jnana Yoga of Vedanta. On the other hand, if we are really a good Karma Yoga, after having done all rituals offered and suggested by the Karma Kanda aspect of the Vedas, and if we get very good, at the most we're going to become a saint-like personality, but we are never going to gain self-knowledge. We're going to have a good relationship with God. We're going to be a good devotee of Ishvara, but that does not translate itself. So meaning to say that Karma Kanda is important, but it's incomplete without Jnana Yoga, without Vedanta or Jnana Kanda. And Jnana Yoga is impossible without all these stages of development, preparations. You understand? I don't know exactly what was your question. If you can repeat, if I did not cover it.
Well, I mean, the basic one is they refer to as Sanatana Dharma. It's in the third line. And what's Sanatana Dharma?
Well, it is the entire karma kanda, those Vedas. It's all the section of the Vedas that says you do certain things, and these things are going to be conducive. In the beginning, you want to have material goals to be accomplished, and then later on, you're going to do actions to purify and to become a dharmic person. You understand? And then, as a dharmic person, you get results that are more lasting. Okay, but they still depending on dharmic actions. It's all about actions and the results of actions. The results of actions is circumstantial. It's just an experience. It's punya. You understand? Material punya or spiritual punya. The first section of the Karma Kanda is those things to get material punya. The second that he refers there is to get spiritual punya. Spiritual punya is kind of lasts a little longer, but the only lasting benefit comes from Jnana Yoga of Vedanta, because you cannot gain your fullness and your ananta by doing any action, only by understanding that you are ananta itself. You are, what is not right for you?
Well, I guess my understanding, and this is, I don't know, for whatever reason, I thought the Upanishads was the scripture, and most of the bulk of the Upanishads is the how to live your daily life type of thing, the instructions that you talked about. And then the Vedas came at the end of the Upanishads, and it really talked about more like the Jnani approach to spirituality. So, but here we haven't even talked.
No. I don't know if I heard you right, correctly. You said that you thought that that the Vedas would come at the end of the Upanishads. Is that what you said? No, the Vedas prepares the mind, purifies the Jiva-Atma for the Upanishad. The Upanishads, David, are the final declarations that come in the very end of the Vedas. Okay, they are declarations in regards to the true nature of the Jiva-Atma as whole, full, and complete. Therefore, it is Paramatma. Jiva-Atma and Paramatma is the same Atma, it's the same being, it's the same consciousness, it's the same existence, okay? So these final declarations is what the Upanishads are, okay? And the Upanishads, it unfolds itself into different categories of books and texts, you understand? Brahma Sutras and all the secondary body of Vedantic texts, which are, for example, the books written from the Yanis, from our Yanis 700 years ago, 500 years ago, 1300 years ago by Shankaracharya. Those are secondary texts, scriptures, you understand? But the original, they are all brought up from the same teachings contained in the Upanishads, which are the final declaration, and in the Gita. The Bhagavad Gita, you find bits and pieces of this final declaration mixed up, with a lot of teachings on karma, dharma, yoga. You understand? And in chapter 6 about Vipassana yoga as well. So meditation. So we have this Bhagavad Gita, which is a summary. It is a summary of the Vedas, because it begins. Gita does not cover the rituals. The rituals are part of this karma kanda, which is most of this karma kanda, the Vedas. Before you get to the end of it, which is Upanishads, most of it is about ritual, doing things to gain material results. Okay, and then later on, you do things no longer for security and pleasure. You do things for dharma. So the third human pursuit, it's equivalent to karma, dharma, yoga, because you begin doing things because you want to have mental purification, mental refinement. You understand? You want to elevate yourself and prepare yourself for the Jnana Yoga of Vedanta, for the final declarations of the Vedas. Vedanta is within the Vedas. Okay, what is not within in Vedanta is within the Vedas as far as the Upanishads, but there are more other texts. Some of them are the Puranas. Bhagavad Gita is a Purana, and a lot of other recent secondary texts, and a lot of Brahma Sutras, which were huge volumes of commentaries on those declarations of the Upanishads, that they can be huge and very voluminous as well. You understand? So the structure is the Veda. The Vedas is everything. Vedanta comes in the end, and then out of the Upanishads, we have the Brahma Sutras, we have the Puranas, and Puranas relate to Vedanta, Bhagavad Gita. And then we have as well the secondary body of texts, such as the one of Vidyaranya Swami and Shankaracharya, the modern text. You understand? That again, it's all about the same teachings contained in the Upanishads and in Bhagavad Gita. Vedanta is Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita that can be exposed as detailed discussions called the Brahma Sutras, or it can be exposed as a summary of the teachings in this modern secondary body of texts of Vedanta, such as Panchadas, Vivekashuddhamani, Tattvabodha, and a few others. I like to go and work with these secondary texts because they are the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita somehow combined and organized in a certain way that is easier to and it covers all the teachings of Vedanta and gives us space to go into it, as we wish, and unfold it and contemplate on those teachings. But sometimes it's very nice to get one of those original texts, the Upanishads, and go through unfolding them. I have been enjoying it lately.
I heard that Sanatana Dharma was another term for Hinduism. So it's kind of like the religious aspect, I think, if you'll correct me, the religious aspect that comes out of the Karma Kanda, a spiritualized religious aspect. So religion is kind of in the Karma Kanda area. So it's a base from which to move into the Anaconda.
Well, religion is nothing but the relationship between Jiva and God. And in the beginning, this relationship is for material gains, and then later on, it's for development of Dharma, to become a higher, a person who observes and lives a Dharmic sattvic life. So we are going through again. It's following the first chapter of this book because before it showed like the human pursuit And now it's showing that we can do all these rituals in the beginning for pleasures and security, but later on we do it to become a dharmic person, to live a righteous life and develop certain qualities, human qualities. So that
I love that. I like that you said relationship, because in the religious aspect of life, there is relationship. So in the knowledge aspect of life, there isn't. So that's lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, in which sense you say in the knowledge aspect there is no relationship? Elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah, sorry. I meant to say that at the end of that, I don't know if you called a Mahavakya, Brahma Sitya, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mitya, Jivo Brahmeva Naparaha.
Oh, you're good.
So in the end, when there's, boy, I've been practicing. So Jiva Brahmeva Napa. Well, anyway, there is no relationship if there is identity.
Yeah.
Right. So we start with relationship in religion, and then you.
Yeah. So the initial relationship is between Jiva and God, and it's a very, very huge upgrade of the materialist Jivas we find in the West, because the materialist Jivas in the West, they don't bring God into account when they go about their pursuits for worldly pleasures and security. So in India, they take God into account, and still they want materialistic results, but they bring God into account, which is very important, and it serves the purpose to bring humility to the human ego. You understand? The arrogance of the ego. I believe that I can go and grab anything I want, and I don't even need to ask God for it. So to know that there is God, it's already the first step. And then we have this dualistic relationship, which is based on trying to gain material gains. You understand? So that grows to become a real religious person. A religious person is a person that is coming to God no longer to ask, but to offer service. You understand? So the prayers and the attitude change, and then the person wants to dedicate one's life to God. And there is great gain, and this gain is a pure heart and a purified mind, and a peace, that lasts for as long as I keep doing proper actions which are in harmony with Dharma, with these natural laws and so on. So we become really religious people when we stop asking things to God, and we develop a Kama Yoga spirit, a certain attitude to see God manifest in everything, and then conforming our actions, sacrificing our desires, our vasanas, our desires and aversions, and bringing forth our actions based on what is good, what is just, what is fair, what is the best service here for the field, for everything. So this is the third level. It's the pursuit of Dharma, the pure pursuit of betterment is when we become a religious person, religious spiritual person. You see, we not only we're including God, we bring God in our life, but we start seeing God in everything, and we want to serve God. So this is still a dualistic relationship, but the fructification of these actions of dedication to God, it produces a much more lasting result, which is peace of mind. It's purity of heart, purity of mind, which is fundamental for us to develop those mental, emotional, and intellectual qualifications for the Yana Yoga Vedanta. When we come to the Yana Yoga, we are just going to move from this dualistic relationship with God, as you said, to a relationship with God in which there is no duality. So if there is no duality, we may say it's a non-dual devotion. It's a devotion for the self, for God, as the very nature of everything and everyone. So it's a altogether different kind of devotion, but there is still a devotion to the one self, in a sense, to the one God. There is no many gods, there is only God. And God is the nature of everything when we look in terms of Nirguna God, Nirguna Brahman, understand? So this is the process, more or less. Oi, Claudio.
Hello.
Hello.
I want to go back to the question that I asked you the last time about the means of knowledge, if you remember. And I meditate, I contemplate a little bit about what we say. And my doubt was to understand what was in Vedanta the real means of knowledge. And so I want to share with you what I understand to see if it's correct. I understand that the logic presented by the Upanishad are the very means of knowledge, because the logic brings you little by little to see the self, to see something that cannot be seen, like you said the last time. No, if I understand, it's something, it's correct, and it's not, of course, based on inference or perception. Of course, there are a little bit of inference of perception. There are a little bit, maybe, but it's not based upon that. And it's the logic. Is this correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So Vedanta is a body of knowledge that is based on our day-to-day experience of life, not properly examined, so that we can examine again. And this logic, it can be based on perception and inference that we are following. But the purpose of this body of knowledge is to neutralize or cancel the notions that we have, that I am the physical body, and I am the mind and the intellect, and I am my vasanas, I am my states. So it's to break with that mistaken identity, okay? So when we say that Vedanta is a body of knowledge and is a means of knowledge, because for gaining knowledge of anything, we need a means of knowledge, and this you understood. But the means of knowledge, Vedanta, although it also uses some perception and inference in its analysis and logic when it's analyzed our day-to-day experience, but when Vedanta is analyzing our day-to-day experience, it's analyzing our ignorance and the way we are caught up with identification with those levels of experience. But all of that is to reveal something which is self-knowledge, which is not based on perception and inference, because you cannot know the self by perception and inference, because the self is the substratum of mithya, in which, you know, the duality subject and object, jiva, and the world occurs as through perception and inference. All knowledge between jiva and the world happens through perception and inference. So all of that is mithya knowledge. Self-knowledge is not a knowledge that can be gained by perception and inference, although the logic presented by Vedanta in respect to an analysis of our day-to-day experience, which is basically the analysis of our ignorance, okay? It's based on perception and inference as well. But when we gain self-knowledge, we gain a knowledge that is not based on perception and inference, because the self is not an object of perception, and if it's not perception, it cannot be of inference, because inference depends on perceptive knowledge. Okay, so what kind of knowledge is this? Is a knowledge that occurs by the means of canceling all those erroneous conclusions that we have in respect to what we are. You understand? So it's going to be produced indirectly by neutralizing or canceling all those erroneous notions. You understand?
Okay.
So now in the end, Vedanta is the most simple thing. Once those notions, they are extensively neutralized about I am, my notions, my mind, my emotion, my memories, my states, my, when my physical body, once those notions are extensively neutralized by following the logic and analyzing the logic presented by Vedanta with the help of a teacher, and then Vedanta is seen as the most simple and obvious thing. Because as we know, Claudio, I mean, we cannot, we can never say, you can never challenge that, that I'm not experiencing my existence. Can you tell me, I mean, I'm not experiencing my existence here. Can we say that?
No.
We can never say, because we are experiencing our existence. We say that the self is not an object of experience. You understand? But at the same time, if we really come all the way down to this final understanding, we have to realize that I experience my existence all the time, not as an object, but my very nature, but as my very nature. I'm experiencing my existence. You have no doubt about that. Your existence is shining. And because it's another name for you experience your consciousness. The mind, as a reflector, produces the Jiva-Atma, which is consciousness, reflect existence, and we experience this conscious existence in every moment of our life through all the three states and so on. So in the end, when you look at this, after having dismantled this firm identification with the five koshas and the three states and so on, you follow, say, oh my God, how could I have missed out? Because I'm experiencing my conscious existence all the time. And then we are left only with one aspect of our freedom, our self-recognition, which is to understand that I'm also experiencing my limitlessness, you understand? And that's where it's a little bit more difficult, because the jiva experience limitation. And then it's a hard time for the jiva to experience its limitlessness unless he develops a value to the ananta, which is not really experiential as your existence is, as your consciousness reflection is. So our limitlessness is only possible by jnana, by understanding my nature. I am consciousness, I am all there is, everything else, all my experience, the three bodies, and everything that happens is just a superimposition on my limitless conscious existence, you understand? And then the ananta is only possible, finally enough, when we finally understand it, that I experience my limitlessness, my conscious existence, and by the way, I experience my limitlessness by the means of jnana. So jnana is the pramana that liberates the jiva at the very end, because it's only by understanding what we are that we can appreciate and enjoy our limitlessness in spite of the limitation of the mind and the intellect, you understand, and the physical body, in what one can do and know, understand. So it is a means of knowledge that brings about the understanding of one's true nature as Satchitananda, and it's called a pramana, a means of knowledge, because you cannot have a knowledge without a means of knowledge, and even for self-knowledge, you need a means of knowledge. And if some people say it's not necessary because Ramana got self-knowledge without means of knowledge, the person is not really correct to say that, because Ramana has been in contact with means of knowledge in previous births, you understand? Because this is a meritorious system, and this self-recognition, this self-knowledge, this freedom, or whatever, howsoever we want to call it, does not happen by lottery. It is a result of one's individual effort, I don't know if it covers your doubt, Claudio.
Yes, now it's very clear. Thank you. Well, I missed just the last few words because the internet had some problem. But I will hear it again. But
No,
the overall picture is that you give me is.
It's my internet seems to be a little bit. I think I lost one of my suppliers, and I'm with the other one on. But I meant to say
But
that
was only the last part. So in the overall picture, I understand it. It clears my doubt. Very good.
Yeah, means of knowledge. We need to go through the means of knowledge. Ramana may appear as not having needed to go through the means of knowledge, but these are souls that have been already, have developed these vasanas which were based on this means of knowledge, spiritual vasanas that were constructed by exposure to this means of knowledge. The knowledge does not happen by chance, by accident.
Yeah.
It requires a means of knowledge.
Thank you.
Hey, Karen. I like to poke Karen because she always gives us an opportunity to get going. Hey, Karen. She may be having breakfast.
I'm here. I'm sorry, I have to leave for work in 20 minutes, so I'm trying to multitask again. Oh,
Yes,
but
yes.
it is what it is.
Yeah. Good.
So you were asking me what again?
I was just asking you to say something so that we can say something more on
Uh-oh.
that. Did you read this second chapter of this book?
Yes. Oh, yes. Mhm. Yeah, and it's it's vast. I understand that it's vast. All the writings about the scriptures. There's a lot.
At the same time, it's the teachings are not that many. It's the teachings are just there are not many, but they are present from different angles with different analogies. All of that to help us to somehow to see, to see through the eyes of the Vedic wisdom, Vedantic wisdom, to see the true nature of the self as conscious existence. Yeah. The teachings are not many.
Well, just to clarify that in this chapter, it talks about the secondary literature, and it says it's called the sutras. But my understanding is Vedanta is based on the Brahma Sutras. Is that what they're talking about here, the Brahma Sutras? But how would that be a secondary literature? I don't understand.
No, Brahma Sutras consider secondary. Which is the paragraph you're looking? The 2 or the 3? The 2, huh?
Well, it says secondary literature, and then one is the sutras.
Okay, so, is it the Smitras or Puranas or?
Itihasa? I'm having difficulty following along between what you're saying, which is really consistent with all we've talked about so far. and then to this book in terms of what it's presenting, and I'm not reconciling it very well.
Okay, the secondary literature here to support and elaborate upon the Vedas. There are many secondary scriptures. These are not revealed knowledge. The fundamental difference is the secondary scriptures. They were written by our acharyas, our teachers, our yanis, you understand? And being the example of Vidyaranya Swami and Shankaracharya, two of those. So there are more than texts, Vedantic texts that are they concise, they are concise ways of presenting all the teachings of Vedanta in these books. Being Panchadas being considered one of the best Vedantic texts, you understand? Because it concises most of all notions and teachings of Vedanta in one book. These are not revealed. The revealed one, the heard ones, are the Upanishad. The Upanishads were heard. And also the Vedas, they say that it was heard as well. From the first steps in one's human development, from the rituals, all of that, it's said to be a heard knowledge, not originate from the man, but revealed to the man, revealed knowledge, understand? So there is a distinction there between the primary literature, which are the Upanishads in the context of Vedanta, and the secondary, which are the ones written by the teachers, by acharyas, And we see it, for example, Ramji has written a few books, being the essence of enlightenment and how to attain enlightenment, the most important, because that was really his book, And he concised for the Western mind different aspects of the teaching in one book. So this is a kind of a secondary literature, Vedantic literature. For example, in Vedanta Brazil, we build Vedanta Brazil all upon those few books of James, because we translate them properly, and you say, you want to begin to understand Vedanta? Get this book, and then read it again, and then let's go through some class. There are some other people that help me to teach Vedanta, that they do this class on how essence of enlightenment. So these are secondary texts, which are the teachings summarized and compiled by an author, to facilitate the understanding of some of these notions of these logics presented by Vedanta. So these are the secondary texts. So, and then they make a distinction here with the word smrt means remember wisdom. Then there is a slight difference here. So this, the remembered, they are wisdom that was remembered. It's something that you heard, the rich heard the primary revelations, and then people passed it on, and then later on it was remembered, you understand? So people, after having studied the Vedas, the authors systematically present the teachings in a clear and comprehensive way, comprising well-arranged chapters. These are all body Vedantic teachings and knowledge or Vedic that were not the original revealed from Ishvara, from consciousness to the rishis. Those are fine distinctions, subtle distinctions that are not really relevant as far as self-knowledge. So the fine range, they say here, the Itihasa. This includes the well-known Ramayana and Mahabharata, which are believed to deal with actual events. They have different classifications. Some of these stories are fictitious. Some of these stories of the Puranas, they were real events, and then they go classifying these different things, but it's more or less irrelevant as far as our work, We have different texts, and regardless of who wrote it, if it's a Purana, it means to say it's a story involving personages, if they were real or if they were fictitious, all of that is not much relevant. You know, there was a purpose for all of these things. These stories makes the teachings much more appealing, much more pleasant. People like it. And then in between, they are being fed some notions that are very profound, as we find in the Gita, which is a Purana. But it's a Purana that was kidnapped by Vedanta, so to speak. Although the other groups also took it and say, no, it's mine. It's from the yoga standpoint. So Vedanta took it and say, okay, this is a Vedantic text for this and this reason. And we know the reasons because there is a lot of Jnana yoga there and pure Kama yoga, and almost nothing of ritualistic practice. It's a complete kind of scripture. You are not satisfied.
So, I mean, but this organization then isn't that consistent with the original organization, which was Vedanta is based upon, you know, the Vedas is based upon Brahma Sutras, and it's based upon the Bhagavad Gita, or it's really based upon the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutras, and the Bhagavad Gita. And that's,
no. Let me explain you. Brahma Sutras, David, they are commentaries on the Upanishads. They can get really philosophical and really subtle and really difficult to follow. Okay, Brahma Sutras are for people who somehow has a lot of questions and keeps challenging those statements of the Upanishads with intelligent oppositions, you know, objections, very intelligent objections. And then the Brahma Sutra comes to those minds, people who have a lot of really intellectual objections to the statements, with offering a lot of logic to object those statements. That's Brahma Sutra, okay? It's an explanation, it's a development, it's an exposition, commentaries, the best word is commentaries on the Upanishads to prove, you know, and this was very much valid in the context of those days where there were a lot of other philosophies objecting this notion of non-dual reality to refer to the world, you understand? Philosophical discussions. That is the Brahma Sutras, okay? And then we have the secondary texts, the texts of Vedanta that was compiled and written, which basically they were written by some of our teachers, you know, over the millennia. They were written, but there is nothing new there. But that is not revealed knowledge, because it was a knowledge that was elaborated by our teachers. But the nature of the secondary body of knowledge is that they never goes off the original notions of the Upanishads. It's just elaborates and organizes it a little differently, you understand, Dave? But it is a secondary body of knowledge which was originated by their authors. When we go to the Upanishad, there are no authors. And the reasons for that is because nobody has ever claimed, I wrote it, you know, I made it. Everybody usually used to say, no, this is a revealed knowledge, and I haven't come up with this idea, these notions, and so on. Okay, and then the Puranas was an effort, David. There was a time that the Vedantic culture was declining, and the families were no longer sending their children to the gurukulas, to the gurus, because this knowledge, they used to be passed generation after generation verbally, and they need to memorize all of that. They need many kids, because when the kid is small, 7 years, they used to go, their brain is very flexible, and they used to memorize sections of the Vedas, including the Upanishads, in a way that they could repeat it. So this knowledge was memorized so that it could survive. That before the written possibilities, this knowledge became a written one. So these things start happening in a way that the society in India start becoming a little bit more materialistic, and the people were not sending the kids. And then they came up with a different way to present the teachings in the form of stories. that could make it more appealing and more easy to infiltrate in society and keep those values, these spiritual notions and values embedded in society. And then they came with all these Puranas, which are the teachings presented in the form of nice stories, entertaining stories, But meanwhile, they were feeding society with these notions. You understand? So these are all developments of those original teachings that were heard by the rishis. In those teachings includes the Upanishad. The Upanishad is the end of the Vedas. You understand? Again, the Upanishad is Vedanta. The Upanishad is Vedanta. Vedanta is the Upanishads plus the commentaries on the Upanishads plus the Puranas plus the modern texts written by these recent authors that have compiled, have extracted those notions, those concepts, those analyses from different Upanishads, and they have organized it in new books, in new texts. So those are the secondary modern texts, which is different from the secondary texts, so-called the Brahma Sutras, which were commentaries, very, very old commentaries on the Upanishads, which is different from the Puranas that were taken or kidnapped. I'm using the expression kidnapped because when you see the Puranas, the Bhagavad Gita has been taken by other philosophies. People come to me and say, "Oh, Bhagavad Gita, I know." And then I ask, "Which Gita you have been studying?" He studies the Gita from a different sampradaya, a different tradition, and most of them come from the yoga, and their interpretation of the Gita is totally different. You understand? So Gita is so pure, and that Vedanta could say, okay, this is pure knowledge, therefore we take it as Vedanta, which includes karma yoga and the concept of Dharma. But you can see that in the Gita, there is no rituals involved. Actually, in several instances, it says, if you are karma yoga and if you're into Vedanta, you will see that all rituals are for the ignorant, it says here and there in the Gita, you understand? So it rejects any rituals, because now we came to the Gita, and the Gita is a scripture of Vedanta, the end of the Vedas. And then going back, we have the original text of the Vedas, and within the Vedas there is the Vedanta, the end. The end is Upanishads. The Upanishads, they gave birth to a lot of commentaries. Those commentaries are called Brahma Sutras. Okay, and then the same Upanishad later on was converted in Puranas, nice stories that could contain the teachings without in a more attractive way. You understand? And then the recent modern texts, they are just texts written by our acharyas, our teachers, and they extract all the concepts of these new books, such as Panchadhara. They are all extractions from the Upanishads, you understand, and from Bhagavad Gita here and there. You understand? We almost never get into Brahma Sutras, because one time I was doing a seminar in Brazil, and there was a guy who came from India, and he was challenging me a little bit. And then he said, okay, so this talk is good, but I want to see, please, let's do the next session on this book. And then he gave me a Brahma Sutras book. I opened the book and I started reading it, and it was very tiring because it was so subtle. It was hair-splitting arguments to prove or disprove the non-dual nature of reality, but so subtle that requires enormous concentration to follow. And I told the guy, "Oh, I can burn my brain here doing this work, but I can tell you, everybody's going to sooner or later stand up and go away, because it's too philosophical, too subtle, and it's not really necessary within the context that we are in here. You understand? So the Brahma Sutras we almost never touch. Ramji has never made any seminar on Brahma Sutras, and he has never made any reference. Correct me, anyone, if I'm wrong. I have never seen it. And And another thing is the text of Shankaracharya, several books. They were beautiful. They are just, it's 1,300 years ago, recent stuff, you know. And those are extractions of the Upanishads and the Gita. Did you understand,
I was
David?
thinking,
So what are we talking, the sutras, are we talking in this book, according to this book, are we talking about the Yoga Sutras, or are we talking about the Brahma Sutras?
Well, there is Brahma Sutras, it's the Yani Yoga aspect, né? It's the Vedanta aspect. Yoga Sutras, there are several books, but it's a different lineage. It's a different school. It's school of yoga. Yoga is duality. Yoga is contact. Yoga is becoming. There are a lot of Brahma Sutras. There is a book that I used to like that is from the lineage of the Brahma Sutras that was profound to a certain extent, which was Yoga Vashishta. Does anybody know? And it's a profound with a lot of non-dual concepts there, but mixed up with a lot of experiential stuff. I used to study this book when I was in association with Papaji. So there are a lot of different sutras, you understand? But Brahma Sutras are the commentaries on the Upanishads.
I always thought of the sutras, or if you wanted to get a PhD in Vedanta and you wanted to delve really deeply into theory and criticism and all that kind of thing, then the sutras are for you. But if you just want to be free, Upanishads can do it.
Yeah, and I heard Ramji saying a few times that Brahma Sutras is more like for teachers, Vedanta teachers. But I don't believe he himself have gone into that. If he did, it was superficially, because you don't need to go into that to teach as well, you know, to share this knowledge. So it's enough to understand, you know, firsthand that you are limitless consciousness existence, and then get familiarized with the scriptures of the Gita and a few Upanishads and the books of Shankaracharya, and then you are covered to effectively share this knowledge, understand? Very effectively. So, but for some people, they have so many questions and doubts and objections that they may need to go into the Brahma Sutras. So I would invite you, David, because you are a very inquiring person, to do some research in the internet, find some Brahma Sutras and read them a little bit. And then you're gonna get a feel of what I mean, you know? It can be very, very subtle, philosophical, and if your brain starts burning and you see smoke coming like that, don't be surprised.
Okay, well, thanks for that. And yeah, the intellectual exercise is great, and I think it's one to do. I have to admit, my focus is more on application, which is really what I thought we were trying to do here with this Thursday session.
Well, all this intellectual exercise presented by the philosophical aspect of Vedanta, it serves a purpose as well, or mostly maybe, to sharpen the intellect, you know? You become smarter as you go into those, you know, those very subtle analysis of human experience in regards to duality, non-duality. So it sharpens the intellect.
Okay, I'm ready to go on to the next section, so I'm fine.
Okay, so David is satisfied, and then we say we can all be satisfied at this point. Ruth, you want to say something? Okay. Okie dokie. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, everyone. We'll be in touch. Much love to all.
Thank you very much.
See you next
Thank
time.
you.
Bye-bye.
See you on Monday.
See you on Monday.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye, Mark.